Captain Deho pressed his palm against the cold metal wall of his ship's bridge and felt the familiar vibration of the engines. The sound was wrong, like always. A grinding noise mixed with a high whistle that meant the power core was working. Too hard again, but the ash walker kept flying. Just like it had for the past 3 years, the ship looked like someone had built it from garbage. The hull was made from pieces of at least 12 different alien vessels, welded together with whatever materials they could find. Some sections were bright silver imperial steel. Others were the dark purple metal that the Keth Empire used for their warships. There were even patches of Earth-made titanium, dull gray and scratched from years of use. Deho walked to the captain's chair, which was actually a pilot's seat salvaged from a crashed transport. The padding was torn and patched with tape, but it was comfortable enough. Around him, the bridge hummed with activity that looked chaotic, but somehow worked. Ram was lying on her back under the navigation console, her legs sticking out as she worked on something inside. Sparks flew from whatever she was fixing, and she cursed it in 3 different languages. Ram could make anything work, even when it should have been impossible. She had learned engineering by taking apart broken machines and putting them back together until they ran better than new. "How bad is it this time?" Deho asked. "The navigation computer thinks we're flying backwards," Ram said without coming out from under the console. "The sensors say we're inside a star, and the life support system believes we're all dead." "But we're still flying?" "Oh yes, we're flying. I just have to convince each system to ignore what the others are telling it." Taman sat at the weapons station, cleaning his pistol with the same care other people used to handle fine art. He had been a gunner on an Imperial Navy destroyer before he decided he was tired of following orders from officers who treated humans like dirt. His uniform was a mix of Imperial navy blue and whatever clothing he could find that fit. The Imperial insignia had been carefully removed from his jacket, leaving only faded patches where they used to be. "Any word from command?" Taman asked. Deho shook his head. "Hyjin is still trying to decode the last transmission. Whatever they're saying, they're being very careful about how they say it." Hyjin worked at the communications station, surrounded by screens showing data streams that changed too fast for normal people to read. She had learned to read these patterns like other people read books. Her fingers moved across the keyboard, without her typing commands while her eyes stayed focused on the scrolling information. "Got it," she said suddenly. "Message is coming through now." The main screen flickered and showed the face of Admiral Youngsik, commander of Earth's Outer Rim Fleet. His expression was serious, and there were new lines around his eyes that had not been there last month. "All salvage vessels, priority message," the Admiral said. "Imperial Third Fleet Admiral Kyung-soo has issued a galaxy-wide broadcasting now." The screen changed to show Admiral Kyung-soo standing on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Glory. He was tall and proud, wearing a perfectly clean uniform covered with medals. Behind him, other Imperial officers stood at attention, their faces showing the same arrogant confidence as their commander. "Citizens of the Galactic Empire," Kyung-soo began, his voice smooth and controlled. "Today I address a problem that has been troubling our trade routes. Human salvage vessels continue to collect scrap and debris from our outer systems like insects picking through garbage." Deho felt his jaw clench. Around the bridge, his crew stopped what they were doing to listen. "These humans fly ships that are insults to engineering," the Admiral continued. "Pieces of metal held together with hope and desperation. They call themselves salvagers, but they are nothing more than scavengers feeding on the remains of better civilizations." The camera moved to show the Admiral walking past a window that looked out at his massive fleet. Hundreds of Imperial warships floated in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming and their weapons charged. "The Empire has decided to be generous," Kyung-soo said. "We will allow these human scrap collectors to continue their pathetic existence as long as they remember their place. They are ash, nothing more. Ash that thinks it can burn, but ash nonetheless." The Admiral smiled, and it was not a kind expression. "Let this be a reminder to all lesser species. The Empire's glory shines eternal while you scramble for our scraps. Remember this, humans, you are ash. We are the fire that created you, and we are the wind that will scatter you when we grow tired of your presence. The transmission ended, and the bridge was quiet for a long moment. Ash, Oram said from under the console. He called us Ash. I've been called worse, Tainan said, but his voice was tight with anger. Hyjin's fingers were moving across her keyboard again. There's more to the message. It's encrypted. She paused, reading something on her screen. Admiral Youngseek is sending us new orders. The main screen showed the Admiral again, but this time his message was clearly encoded for only the salvage. Fleet to receive. Salvage crews, your real mission begins now. Each of your vessels has been specially prepared for infiltration operations. Your ships may look like scrap, but they contain technology the Empire has never seen. Deho leaned forward in his chair. This was news to him. For the past 2 years, Earth Command has been developing new systems in secret, the Admiral continued. Hidden inside your salvage vessels are quantum phase drives, advanced AI cores, and fusion systems that can generate power levels far beyond what your ships appear capable of. Ram slid out from under the console, her face covered with grease, and her eyes wide with surprise. Your mission is to infiltrate Imperial space and gather intelligence on their new superweapon project? Codenamed Glory's End, our sources suggest this weapon is designed to destroy entire star systems. Earth Command believes the first target will be our solar system. The weight of this information settled on the bridge like a heavy blanket. You will pose as normal salvage crews while you gather this intelligence. The Empire must continue to see you as harmless scavengers until we are ready to act. Your ships have been equipped with everything you need, hidden in systems that look like standard salvage equipment. Hyjin brought up a star chart showing their current position and a route that led deep into Imperial space. Captain Deho, the Admiral said, looking directly at the camera. Your crew has been selected for this mission because you understand how to survive when everyone thinks you're worthless. Use that skill now. The fate of Earth depends on ships like yours. The message ended, and the bridge was silent again. Deho looked around at his crew. Bilram was staring at the deck plates, probably wondering what hidden technology was built into her own ship. Taemin was checking his weapons, his face set in determined lines. Hyjin was already pulling up Imperial fleet movements and patrol schedules. So, Deho said finally, it turns out we really are more than we appear to be. Just like the Admiral said, Ram replied. Ash that can burn. Deho stood up and walked to the main screen, looking out at the stars that stretched in all directions. Somewhere out there, the Empire was building a weapon that could turn Earth's sun into humanity's funeral pyre. And the only thing standing between them and that goal was a collection of ships that looked like flying garbage. Set. Course for Imperial space, he ordered. Let's go show them what Ash can do. The Imperial checkpoint station Helix 7 hung in space like a giant metal spider. Its arms reached out in 8 directions, each one bristling with weapons and sensors. Ships moved in and out of the station's docking bays in careful patterns, following routes that had been planned by Imperial traffic controllers. Deho watched the station grow larger on his main screen as the Ashwalker approached. The ship's engines made their usual grinding noise, and black smoke leaked from one of the exhaust ports. To anyone watching, they looked exactly like what they claimed to be, a desperate salvage crew hoping to find work in Imperial space. Remember, Deho said to his crew, we're just here to register for salvage permits. We need spare parts, and we're willing to work cheap. Bioram nodded from her engineering station. She had spent the last 3 days making the ship look even more broken than usual. Fake damage panels covered some of the hidden technology, and she had rigged several systems to produce convincing sparks and smoke when Imperial inspectors came aboard. Incoming transmission, Hyjin announced. Imperial Control is giving us docking instructions. The voice that came through the speakers was bored and annoyed. Salvage vessel Ashwalker, you are cleared for docking bay 7. Prepare for inspection. Any weapons above Class 2 civilian grade will be confiscated. Any contraband will result in immediate arrest. Welcome to Imperial space, Friendly bunch, Taemin muttered. He had hidden his military sidearm and was now carrying only a basic plasma cutter that looked like a tool instead of a weapon. The docking process took 20 minutes. Imperial traffic control guided them through a maze of other ships, most of them clean and efficient-looking Imperial vessels. The Ashwalker looked like a piece of garbage floating among racing ships. As soon as they docked, Imperial Inspector Wu Jin came aboard with 2 security guards. He was a thin man with narrow eyes and a permanent expression of disgust. He looked around the bridge and wrinkled his nose at the smell of burning electronics and recycled air. "Papers," he demanded. Daeho handed over their forged documents. The papers claimed they were independent salvagers from the Rim territories, looking for work permits in Imperial space. Everything was perfectly legal, if not entirely true. Wu Jin scanned the documents with a handheld device, then looked around. The bridge again. "This ship is a disgrace," he said. "How does it even fly?" "Very carefully," Ram answered. "And with a lot of prayer." One of the security guards laughed, but Wu Jin silenced him with a sharp look. "What is your business in?" "Imperial space?" the inspector asked. "Salvage work," Daeho replied. "We heard there might be some wreckage from the recent fleet exercises near Proxima 7. We're hoping to get permits to clean it up." Wu Jin made notes on his tablet. "Your ship appears to be barely functional. Are you certain it can handle deep space salvage operations?" "She's not pretty, but she works," Daeho said. "We've been doing this for 5 years. Never lost a crew member or failed to complete a job." This was actually true, which made it easier to say convincingly. Wu Jin walked around the bridge. Looking at the various jury-rigged systems, he stopped at Hyjin's communication station and frowned at the mix of equipment from different manufacturers. "This communications array," he said. "It appears to be constructed from components of at least 6 different systems." "Whatever works," Hyjin said with a shrug. "Parts are expensive. We use what we can find." The inspector shook his head in disgust and moved on. He spent another 10 minutes looking at their cargo holds and engineering sections, but it was clear that he considered the ship beneath his notice. The Ashwalker was so obviously a piece of junk that he could not imagine it being any kind of threat. "Your permits will be processed within 6 hours, he finally announced. "You are restricted to this docking bay until then. Any attempts to leave the station without proper clearance will result in immediate arrest." After the inspector left, the crew waited 30 minutes before beginning their real work. Beoram opened a hidden panel near the airlock and pulled out equipment that definitely had not been there when Wu Jin toured the ship. "Quantum resonance taps," she explained quietly. "I need to get these into the station's main communication array without anyone noticing." "How do we do that?" Daeho asked. "Maintenance tunnel," Beoram said. "Every station this size has service tunnels running between the docking bays and the main systems. I just need to look like I'm fixing something." She put on a maintenance jumpsuit that looked like standard Imperial station equipment and gathered her tools. To anyone watching, she would appear to be just another technician doing routine repairs. While Beoram worked on the communications array, Hyjin stayed on the ship and began monitoring Imperial transmissions. The station's communication systems carried traffic from across this sector of Imperial space, including military channels that should have been encrypted. "I'm getting something," she whispered into her headset. "Military traffic about a project called Glory's End." On the main screen, she displayed the intercepted data. Most of it was coded, but some parts were clear enough to understand. "Test schedule for Glory's End prototype," she read quietly. "Location, Crimson Nebula. Expected results, total system sterilization." Taemin looked up from the weapons console, where he was pretending to clean a plasma cutter. "System sterilization? That sounds like they're planning to destroy entire star systems." "Keep listening," Daeho ordered. Over the next 2 hours, more pieces of information came through the stations. Communication network. References to amplifier stations and cascade ignition sequences. Technical data about something called a stellar conversion matrix. Then Hyjin's face went pale. "Captain, you need to hear this." She played back a recorded transmission between two Imperial officers. "The target list has been approved," the first voice said. "Sol System is confirmed as the primary test target for the full-scale Glory's End deployment." "When?" asked the second voice. 6 months from now. Admiral Kyung-soo wants to make an example of the humans. He believes destroying their home system will discourage other Rim species from challenging Imperial authority. The bridge was silent as the implications sank in. 6 months. That was how long Earth had left. Bo Ram's voice came through the communication. "System installation complete. The taps are in place and functioning. I'm heading back to the ship." But as she made her way through the maintenance tunnels, alarms began to sound throughout the station. Emergency lights flashed red, and automated voices announced a security alert. "All personnel, report to stations." Unauthorized access detected in Section C. Security teams respond immediately. Daeho felt his heart rate increase. "Bioram, what's your status?" "I'm in the tunnels between Sections B and C." Her voice crackled through the communicator. "Someone must have detected the taps. Can you get back to the ship?" "Working on it. But there are security teams moving through the area." "On the docking bay's security cameras. They could see Imperial security officers questioning maintenance workers and checking identification. One team was heading directly toward their docking bay." "We have another problem," Taemin said. He was monitoring the security channels on his handheld scanner. "Commander Jinwoo is taking personal charge of this investigation. He's not like Inspector Wu Jin. This guy is paranoid and thorough." Through the docking bay windows, they could see Commander Jinwoo approaching with a full security team. He was a compact man with sharp eyes that seemed to notice everything. Unlike the board inspector who had cleared them earlier, Jinwoo moved like someone who expected to find trouble. "But, Rem, you need to get back here now," Daeho said urgently. "Almost there." "Give me 2 more minutes." But 2 minutes was more time than they had. Commander Jinwoo was already at their airlock, and his security team was spreading out around the docking bay to prevent any escape. Haijin quickly shut down her monitoring equipment and switched to normal communications mode. Taemin secured his weapons and tried to look like a board crew member. Daeho walked to the airlock to meet their unexpected visitors. "Commander." Jinwoo came aboard without waiting for permission. His eyes moved constantly, taking in every detail of the bridge. Unlike Inspector Wu Jin, he did not seem disgusted by the ship's appearance. Instead, he looked curious. "Captain," he said politely, "I am Commander Jinwoo, Station Security. We have detected some unusual energy signatures coming from this area. I need to conduct a more thorough inspection of your vessel." "Of course," Daeho replied, trying to keep his voice calm. "Though I'm not sure what you expect to find. Inspector Wu Jin already cleared us." "Yes, I saw his report." Jinwoo's smile was not reassuring. "But Inspector Wu Jin looks for contraband and weapons violations. I look for things that do not belong." He began a systematic examination of the ship, but this time he was looking for things that were hidden rather than obvious. His scanner beeped softly as he moved through the bridge, and Daeho realized with growing alarm that the device was designed to detect energy signatures that did not match the ship's apparent technology level. Just as Jinwoo's scanner began to register something suspicious near the navigation console, Bioram climbed through the maintenance hatch and back onto the ship. She was covered in grease and holding a broken circuit board. "Sorry, Captain," she said loudly. The environmental sigh. 3 hours after leaving Helix 7, Haijin detected the pursuit ships on her sensors. 5 Imperial patrol vessels were following the Ashwalker at a distance, trying to stay hidden behind asteroids and gas clouds. They were not very good at it. "Commander Jinwoo is not giving up," she reported to Captain Daeho. "His ships are staying about 2 million kilometers behind us, but they're definitely following our course." Daeho studied the tactical display. The Imperial ships were faster than the Ashwalker appeared to be, but they were hanging back instead of closing the distance. That meant Jinwoo wanted to see where they were going rather than simply arrest them. "He's hoping we'll lead him to something bigger," Taemin observed. "Smart man." "Too smart," Deho agreed. We need to lose them before we reach the rendezvous point. Any ideas? Bioram looked up from her engineering console with a grin. The Crimson Nebula is only 6 hours away. Imperial ships hate going in there. The Crimson Nebula was a dangerous region of space filled with electromagnetic storms and radiation that played havoc with navigation systems. Most pilots avoided it unless they had no choice. But Bioram had modified the Ashwalker systems to handle exactly this kind of environment. Set course for the nebula, Deho ordered. Maybe we can shake our tail in there. As they changed course toward the swirling red clouds of the nebula, the Imperial ships adjusted their own heading to follow. Commander Jinwoo was clearly determined not to lose them. They're closing the distance, Haijin reported. I think they're worried about losing us in the nebula. Good, let them worry. The Ashwalker reached the edge of the Crimson Nebula just as the Imperial ships began to close in for real. The nebula stretched before them like a wall of red and orange clouds shot through with lightning that could tear apart a ship's hull. All ships, this is Commander Jinwoo, came a transmission on the standard Imperial frequency. Salvage vessel. Ashwalker, you are ordered to stop and prepare for boarding. Reduce speed immediately. Deho looked at his crew. Anyone feel like stopping? Not really, Bioram said, her hands flying over her controls. Entering the nebula in 3.2.bon. The Ashwalker plunged into the swirling red clouds, and immediately everything changed. The main screen filled with crackling energy and shifting colors. The ship's hull groaned as electromagnetic currents tried to tear it apart. Warning alarms sounded throughout the bridge. Shields at 60%, Bioram reported calmly. Hull integrity holding. Navigation systems are getting confused, but I expected that. Behind them, the Imperial ships hesitated at the nebula's edge. Deho could imagine Commander Jinwoo weighing his options. Following them into this chaos would be dangerous, but letting them escape would be worse. They're coming in after us, Taemin announced, watching the sensor readings. All 5 ships. Their mistake, Bioram said. She activated systems that had been hidden deep in the ship's computer core. Suddenly, the Ashwalker was moving through the nebula like it belonged there, following paths that only her modified sensors could detect. The Imperial ships were not so lucky. Within minutes, they were scattered throughout the nebula, their sensors blinded by the electromagnetic interference. One ship scraped against an asteroid they could not see coming. Another had to emergency stop when its navigation computer started giving impossible readings. This is where it gets interesting, Haijin said, pointing at her long-range sensors. There's something big ahead of us. Really big? The sensor readings showed a massive artificial structure hidden deep in the heart of the nebula. It was at least 10 kilometers long and bristling with weapons and energy projectors. As they got closer, they could see that it was some kind of testing platform. Imperial weapons testing facility, Taemin identified. Look at the size of those energy collectors. Deho felt a chill run down his spine. Bioram, take us closer but keep us hidden. I think we're about to see Glory's End in action. They found a good hiding spot behind a large asteroid and watched as the testing platform powered up. Energy readings spiked across all frequencies, and space itself seemed to shimmer with barely contained power. Attention all vessels, came a broadcast from the testing platform. Imperial Weapons Command is conducting classified testing. All unauthorized ships will be destroyed without warning. Testing will commence in 10 minutes. Through the swirling clouds of the nebula, they could see the target, a small star system with 3 planets orbiting a young yellow sun. It looked peaceful and normal, exactly like thousands of other systems throughout the galaxy. They're going to test the weapon on an entire star system, Haijin whispered. Are there people living there? Taemin asked. Haijin checked her readings. No major settlements, but there are signs of primitive life on the second planet. Plants, maybe some animals. They watched in horrified fascination as the testing platform began its firing sequence. Massive energy projectors swiveled toward the distant star, and power readings climbed to levels that should have been impossible. Look at those energy patterns, Boram said, her voice tight with fear. They're not just targeting the planets? They're targeting the star itself? The weapon fired, a beam of pure energy, invisible except for the way it bent space around itself, lanced out from the testing platform toward the target star. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the star began to change. Instead of its normal yellow light, the star started glowing brighter and shifting toward white, then blue. The change was slow at first, then faster and faster. Within minutes, the star had become a blazing blue giant, pumping out 10 times more energy than before. Stellar conversion, Hyjin breathed. They're forcing the star to burn faster. But it did not stop there. The star continued to change, burning through its fuel at an impossible rate. What should have taken millions of years was happening in hours. The 3 planets began to glow as their atmospheres heated up and burned away. Then the star exploded. The nova was beautiful and terrible, an expanding sphere of light and energy that consumed everything in the system. The 3 planets vanished. In seconds, asteroids and comets were vaporized. In less than an hour, an entire star system had been turned into an expanding cloud of superheated gas. Dear God, Taemin whispered. That's what they want to do to Earth. From the testing platform came another broadcast, this one on military frequencies that Hyjin was monitoring. Glory's End prototype test successful, the voice reported. Stellar conversion achieved in 47 minutes. Total system sterilization complete. Proceeding to Phase 2 testing. Phase 2? Daeho asked. They did not have to wait long to find out. The testing platform began powering up again, but this time the energy readings were different. Instead of one massive beam, they were preparing to fire multiple smaller ones. They're targeting multiple systems, Boram realized. Look at those targeting arrays. 3 more star systems, each several light-years away, appeared on the weapon's targeting display. The platform fired again, sending 3 beams of energy, racing toward distant suns. Cascade targeting, Hyjin said, her face pale. Each converted star creates an energy resonance that makes the next conversion easier. They can destroy multiple systems with one weapon. As they watched, the 3 distant stars began to change just like the first one. Within hours, 3 more. Nova explosions lit up the nebula with their dying light. That's impossible, Taemin said. No weapon can have that kind of range. Unless, Boram said slowly, unless they have amplifier stations positioned throughout the galaxy. Relay points that boost the signal and redirect it to new targets. Before anyone could respond to this terrifying possibility, alarms began sounding. On the bridge. One of Commander Jinwoo's patrol ships had found them. Imperial vessel approaching, Hyjin reported. They've locked weapons on us. The patrol ship emerged from the nebula's interference like a shark cutting through water. Captain had clearly decided that finding the Ashwalker near a classified weapons test was all the evidence he needed. This is Commander Jinwoo, came the transmission. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. You have witnessed classified Imperial operations and cannot be allowed to leave this area. Daeho looked at his crew. They had learned something that could save Earth, but only if they survived to report it. The patrol ship was faster and better armed than they were supposed to be. But, Oram, what do we have that we haven't shown them yet? She smiled grimly and activated another hidden system. Quantum phase shifters. We can partially shift into subspace for short periods. They won't be able to track us or hit us while we're phased. Do it? The Ashwalker flickered and became translucent as it shifted partially out of normal space. The patrol ship's weapons fired, but the energy beams passed harmlessly through their phased hull. Impossible, came Jinwoo's voice over the radio. What kind of technology is that? Instead of answering, Daeho ordered a course out of the nebula. The Ashwalker raced through the electromagnetic storms, phasing in and out of normal space to avoid both the remaining patrol ships and the dangerous energy currents. As they emerged from the nebula's far side, they left behind 4 confused Imperial ships and 1 very worried commander. But they carried with them knowledge that changed everything. Get me a secure channel to Earth Command, Daeho ordered. Priority Alpha, while Hyjin worked to S-Stub. The asteroid base looked exactly like what it was supposed to be, a worthless chunk of rock floating in empty space. No energy signatures, no communication signals, nothing that would interest Imperial patrols. But hidden inside the asteroid was a facility that had taken Earth Command 3 years to build. Captain Deho guided the Ash Walker toward what looked like a natural cave opening in the asteroid's surface. As they got closer, the opening revealed itself to be perfectly round and just large enough for their ship. They flew through a series of airlocks that sealed behind them, each one designed to look like natural rock formations inside the asteroid. Deho was amazed by what he saw. The main cavern was huge, easily large enough to hold 50 ships the size of the Ash Walker. And it was almost full. Dozens of vessels floated in the artificial atmosphere, each one looking like a piece of space junk. There were ships built from salvaged Imperial destroyers, cargo haulers held together with welding patches, and mining vessels that appeared to be one malfunction away from exploding. But Deho now knew better than to judge by appearances. "Welcome to Shadow Base," came a voice over their communication system. "Please dock at Platform 7. Admiral Young-Sik is waiting to debrief you." As they guided their ship to the assigned platform, Bo-Ram stared out at the other vessels with wonder. "All of these ships are like ours?" "Hidden weapons disguised as junk," Taemin confirmed. "Look at those energy readings. Every one of these ships is putting out power levels that should be impossible for their apparent technology." They docked and made their way through the station's corridors. The base was carved directly from the asteroid's rock, with artificial gravity and atmosphere systems hidden behind walls that looked completely natural. Personnel moved through the halls wearing civilian clothing, but Deho could tell from the way they moved that most of them were military. Admiral Young-Sik met them in a briefing room that doubled as the base's command center. The walls were covered with star charts showing Imperial territory, and holographic displays tracked the movements of both Imperial fleets and Earth's hidden ships. "Captain Deho," the Admiral said, standing to shake his hand. "I've read your preliminary report. You've confirmed our worst fears about Glory's End?" "It's worse than we thought," Deho replied. "The weapon can target multiple star systems simultaneously, and they have amplifier stations that boost the signal across interstellar distances." The Admiral nodded grimly. "We suspected as much. Please sit down. There are things you need to know about your real mission." The briefing room filled with other ship captains as the Admiral began his presentation. Deho recognized some of them from their reputation, even though they all commanded vessels that looked like floating scrap heaps. "For the past 2 years," Admiral Young-Sik began, "Earth Command has been running Operation Ashfall. Every salvage ship, every mining vessel, every transport that looks like it should have been scrapped years ago, they're all part of this operation." A holographic display showed the positions of Earth ships throughout Imperial space. There were hundreds of them, scattered across dozens of systems, all posing as harmless civilian vessels. "Each ship has been modified with experimental technology that our enemies have never seen," the Admiral continued. "Quantum phase shifters that allow partial movement through subspace. Fusion cores that can be overloaded to create devastating explosions. And most importantly, AI cores programmed with the consciousness patterns of fallen Earth heroes." Dr. Hae-Won, a woman in her 50s wearing a scientist's coat, stepped forward to continue the briefing. "The AI cores are our most classified technology. We've taken the brain patterns of some of Earth's greatest military minds and uploaded them into quantum computers. These aren't just artificial intelligences, they're the actual thoughts and memories of real people." Deho felt a chill. "Are you saying our ships are haunted?" "In a sense, yes," Dr. Hae-Won replied. "Each ship carries the consciousness of a hero who died defending Earth. They retain all their knowledge, experience, and tactical skills. When the time comes, these digital spirits will take control of your ship's hidden systems." She activated a control, and the holographic display changed to show technical specifications for the ship modifications. "Your fusion cores can be linked together through quantum entanglement. she explained. When enough cores synchronize their output, they create a galaxy-wide electromagnetic pulse. This pulse will disable the Glory's end weapon permanently. How many ships would that take? Asked Captain Gangmin, commander of the Iron Ember. Every ship in Operation Ashfall, Dr. Hay1 answered quietly. The energy requirements are enormous. The fusion cores will have to overload completely to generate the necessary power. The room was silent as the implications sank in. Every ship would have to sacrifice itself to stop the Super Weapon. There's more, Admiral Young-Sik said. Before we can generate the pulse, we need to destroy the amplifier stations. Intelligence suggests there are 12 primary stations positioned throughout Imperial space. Each one is heavily defended and located on a fortress world. Captain Sunya, who commanded the stellar debris, raised her hand. How do we find these stations? They'll be camouflaged or hidden underground. That's where your AI cores come in, Dr. Hay1 replied. The consciousness patterns we've uploaded include some of the finest tactical minds in Earth's history. They can analyze Imperial defensive patterns and identify the most likely locations for hidden installations. She gestured to another display showing Imperial fortress worlds. Admiral Mi Young, who died defending Mars 15 years ago, has been uploaded to the Ashwalker's AI core. Her expertise in orbital defense patterns makes her perfect for identifying hidden weapon installations. Daeho stared at the display. Admiral Mi Young is in our ship? Dormant for now, Dr. Hay1 confirmed. The AI cores will only activate when you're in combat situations. We couldn't risk them being discovered during routine inspections. Admiral Young-Sik stepped forward again. Gentlemen and ladies, you're looking at the largest deception operation in human history. For 2 years, we've positioned hundreds of apparently worthless ships throughout enemy territory. The Empire sees us as scavengers and parasites not worth their attention. He smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. They're about to learn that even parasites can kill their host. The briefing continued for another hour, covering everything from communication protocols to target assignments. Each ship would be responsible for one amplifier station. The attacks would happen simultaneously, giving the Empire no time to adapt their defenses. When do we begin? Daeho asked. 3 days, the Admiral replied. Intelligence reports that Glory's End will be ready for full deployment against Earth in 4 days. We have to stop them before then. As the meeting broke up, Dr. Hay1 approached Daeho privately. Captain, there's something else you should know about Admiral Mi Young. She volunteered for this program before she died. She knew she was terminal and wanted her knowledge to serve Earth one final time. What was she like? Daeho asked. Brilliant. Ruthless when necessary, but she never sent anyone into danger she wouldn't face herself. She held the Mars orbital platforms for 6 hours against impossible odds, long enough for the civilian transports to escape. Dr. Hay1 handed him a small device. This will activate her consciousness when you need her tactical expertise. But be warned, she have access to all your ship's hidden systems. Once activated, she be in command of the Ashwalker's true capabilities. As Daeho returned to his ship, he found his crew preparing for what they all knew might be their final mission. Beoram was running diagnostics on systems they hadn't known existed until today. Taemin was studying tactical information about Imperial fortress worlds. Hyjin was reviewing communication protocols for coordinating with the other ships. So, Beoram said without looking up from her console, we're going to attack the most heavily defended targets in the Empire, using ships that look like scrap with the help of dead heroes living in our computers. That's about right, Daeho. Confirmed. And if we succeed, we'll have to destroy our own ship to stop their super weapon? Yes, Beoram nodded thoughtfully. Sounds like a typical Earth Navy operation. Impossible odds, certain death, and the fate of humanity hanging in the balance. Taemin looked up from his tactical display. At least we're not going in alone. Every ship in this base is staffed by people who volunteered for a suicide mission. To save Earth. The Empire called us Ash, Hyjin added quietly. They don't realize that ash is what's left after fire burns everything away. And sometimes, ash is all you need to start a new fire. Deho looked around at his crew, these brave people who had followed him across the galaxy on what appeared to be a simple salvage mission. Now they knew the truth. They were Earth's secret weapon, hidden in plain sight among the scrap and debris of space. In 3 days, they would find out if courage and deception could defeat superior firepower and technology. In 3 days, the Empire would learn what humanity looked like when it stopped pretending to be harmless. The gathering storm was about to become a hurricane, and the Empire had no idea what was coming for them. Outside the asteroid base, space looked empty and peaceful, but hidden in that emptiness were hundreds of ships carrying. Valtheon Prime hung in space like a jewel, its surface covered with the gleaming towers of Imperial civilization. The planet was home to 50 billion people and served as the administrative center for this entire sector of the Empire. More importantly, it housed the largest amplifier station in the Imperial network. Hidden beneath the capital city's government district, Captain Deho studied the planet through the ash walker's sensors as they approached the outer system. Dozens of orbital defense platforms surrounded Valtheon Prime, each one bristling with enough weapons to destroy a battle fleet. Patrol ships moved in careful patterns between the platforms, their crews alert for any sign of trouble. Impressive defenses, Taemin observed from his weapons station. General Seo Jun doesn't take any chances with security. General Seo Jun was Valtheon's defense commander, a veteran of 30 years of Imperial service. Intelligence reports said he was competent, careful, and completely loyal to the Empire. He was also about to face something he had never encountered. "Before Boram, are all our hidden systems ready?" Deho asked. "Phase shifters are charged and ready," she replied. "Quantum resonance taps are online. And the fusion core is prepared for emergency overload if we need it." Haijin looked up from her communications console. "I'm receiving traffic control instructions. They want us to dock at Civilian Station 47 for inspection and cargo registration." "Perfect," Deho said. "That puts us exactly where we need to be." According to their intelligence, the amplifier station was located directly beneath the capital city, about 200 kilometers below Civilian Station 47. Their mission was to penetrate the planet's defenses, locate the amplifier, and destroy it before Imperial forces could stop them. As the Ashwalker approached the orbital station, Deho activated the device Dr. Haywon had given him. For a moment, nothing happened. Then every system on the bridge flickered, and a new voice spoke through the ship's communication system. "Systems integration complete," the voice said. It was calm, professional, and unmistakably female. "Admiral Mi Young reporting for duty, Captain Deho." The crew stared at their consoles as displays they had never seen before came online. Tactical information flooded their screens, showing defensive positions, patrol routes, and weak points. "In the orbital security network." "Admiral," Deho said carefully, "it's an honor to have you aboard." "The honor is mine, Captain," Mi Young replied. "I've reviewed our mission parameters and current tactical situation. General Seo Jin has positioned his defenses well, but he's made 3 critical errors that we can exploit." On the main screen, a tactical display showed the orbital defense network with 3 positions highlighted in red. "First," Mi Young continued, "his patrol patterns assume any serious threat will come from outside the system. He's not watching for threats that are already inside his perimeter. Second, his orbital platforms are designed to engage large fleets, not single ships using unconventional tactics. Third, and most importantly, he doesn't know what we're really capable of." The Ashwalker docked at the civilian station without incident. To the Imperial traffic controllers, they looked like just another salvage crew seeking work permits. Their ship's exterior was as battered and pathetic as ever, leaking coolant and making concerning mechanical noises. "Inspection team is boarding," Haijin reported. "Standard civilian authority, not military." 3 Imperial officials came aboard and conducted a routine inspection. They were bored, efficient, and completely uninterested in a ship that was obviously beneath their notice. Within an hour, the Ashwalker had been cleared for departure with full access to the system's shipping lanes. Phase 1 complete, Admiral, Mi-young announced, beginning infiltration sequence. As they undocked from the civilian station, the ship's hidden systems came online. The quantum phase shifters activated, making the Ashwalker partially translucent and nearly invisible to sensors. They slipped past 3 patrol ships without being detected. Approaching the outer defense perimeter, Taemin reported. 20 orbital platforms in range. Their sensors are calibrated for ships in normal space, Mi-young explained. Maintain phase shift and follow the approach vector I'm transmitting to your navigation system. Bioram watched in amazement as her navigation display showed a course that threaded between the orbital platforms like a needle through cloth. How did you calculate this route so quickly? 30 years of studying Imperial defensive doctrine, Mi-young replied, plus 15 years of fighting them. I know how Seo-jun thinks. They were halfway through the defense network when alarms began sounding throughout the system. Not because of the Ashwalker, but because similar attacks were beginning on 11 other worlds simultaneously. Imperial Command is reporting attacks on Zorian 7, Nexus Central, and Kithara Station. Hyjin announced, monitoring military communications. They're calling for general alert status. On Valtheon Prime's surface, General Seo-jun was receiving the same reports. Through the communication intercepts, they could hear him ordering his defenses to maximum readiness. But he was looking outward, expecting the attack to come from space. He still doesn't see us, Mi-young observed with satisfaction. Beginning descent to planetary surface. The Ashwalker entered Valtheon Prime's atmosphere while still phase shifted, appearing as nothing more than a sensor ghost that could be easily dismissed as atmospheric interference. They descended through layers of air traffic past civilian transports and cargo haulers toward the capital city. Target acquired, Mi-young announced. Amplifier station is located beneath the central government complex, depth 215 meters underground. Defensive systems include 40 automated turrets, energy shields rated for orbital bombardment, and a garrison of 2,000 Imperial Marines. How do we get through all that? Daeho asked. We don't go through it, Mi-young replied. We go around it. The ship's sensors had detected something the Imperial engineers had missed when they built the amplifier station. A natural cave system ran beneath the government complex, intersecting with the amplifier facility's lower levels. The caves were too small for normal ships to navigate, but the Ashwalker was not a normal ship. Phase shifting the maximum, Mi-young ordered. We're going underground. Bioram's hands flew over her controls as the ship's phase shifters pushed them further out of normal space. The Ashwalker became completely translucent and passed through solid rock like it was empty air. They descended through layers of stone and metal, following the cave system toward their target. Incredible, Taemin whispered, watching solid matter pass through the bridge windows. It's like we're ghosts. That's exactly what we are, Mi-young replied. Ghosts seeking revenge. They emerged from the rock directly inside the amplifier station's lower level. The massive chamber was filled with crystalline structures that hummed with barely contained energy. Technicians in white coats moved between the crystals, monitoring power levels and making adjustments. Target confirmed, Mi-young said. Beginning attack run. The Ashwalker shifted back into normal space, appearing inside the supposedly impregnable facility like a nightmare made real. Alarms immediately began sounding as the technicians realized that an armed vessel had somehow materialized in their most secure installation. Impossible, came a voice over the facility's communication system. How did they get inside our shields? General Seo-chun's voice cut through the chaos. All units, respond to the amplifier station immediately. The enemy is inside our primary facility. But it was too late for conventional responses. Admiral Mi-young had taken direct control of the ship's weapons systems, and her targeting was perfect. Plasma beams lanced out from the Ashwalker's hidden gun ports, striking the amplifier crystals with surgical precision, each crystal that exploded sent cascading failures through the entire network. The amplifier station, which had taken 5 years to build, was being systematically destroyed in minutes by someone who understood exactly where to hit it. Structural damage at 60%, Hyjin reported. The whole facility is coming apart. Imperial Marines were flooding into the chamber, firing everything they had at the Ashwalker. But the ship's shields were holding, and Admiral Mi Young was anticipating every move the defenders made. General Seo Jun is adapting faster than expected, she announced. He's bringing in heavy weapons from the surface garrison. We need to finish this quickly. The ship's main gun, a weapon that had been disguised as a cargo loading arm, swiveled toward the amplifier station's central power core. The massive fusion reactor that powered the entire facility was heavily shielded, but Admiral Mi Young knew exactly where its weak points were. Firing main gun, she announced, the energy beam punched through the reactor's containment field like it was paper. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the entire facility lit up like a new sun as the fusion reactor went critical. Emergency ascent, Mi Young ordered. This whole place is about to become a crater. The Ashwalker phase shifted again and rocketed upward through solid rock, racing to escape the explosion building beneath them. Behind them, the amplifier station and most of the government complex vanished in a ball of nuclear fire dot as they broke through to the surface. Daeho could see the destruction they had caused. A massive crater now existed where the capital cities. Across the galaxy, the Empire was burning on Zorian 7. Captain Gangmin watched as his ship, the Iron Ember, tore through the planet's orbital defenses like they were made of paper. The ship's AI core contained the consciousness of General Wuseok, who had died defending the Luna colonies 20 years ago. His tactical genius was now focused on destroying the amplifier station hidden beneath Zorian's crystal mines. Target acquired, General Wuseok announced through the ship's speakers. Beginning bombardment sequence. The Iron Ember looked like a cargo hauler that should have been scrapped decades ago, but its hidden weapon systems were cutting through Imperial shields with impossible precision. Each shot was placed exactly where it needed to be, guided by the knowledge of a man who had spent his life studying how to defeat superior enemies. Meanwhile, on Nexus Central, Captain Sunya's ship Stellar Debris was engaged in a running battle. With the Imperial Fourth Fleet, Admiral Kyung-soo himself was commanding the defense, his flagship Eternal Glory leading 30 warships against what appeared to be a single salvage vessel. Impossible, Admiral Kyung-soo said from his command bridge. One ship cannot fight an entire fleet. But the Stellar Debris was not really one ship. Its I-core held the consciousness of Fleet Admiral Dongmin, the hero of the Battle of Titan. He had died holding off an entire Imperial invasion fleet with just 5 ships, and now he was fighting his final battle from beyond the grave. Quantum torpedo spread, pattern 7, Admiral Dongmin commanded. The weapons that emerged from the Stellar Debris were like nothing the Imperial fleet had ever seen. They phased in and out of normal space, making them impossible to intercept or dodge. Admiral Kyung-soo watched in horror as 3 of his destroyers exploded simultaneously. What kind of weapons are those? His question was answered when the Stellar Debris suddenly split into 5 separate ships, each one a fully armed warship disguised as salvage equipment. The single vessel had actually been a carrier, deploying hidden fighters that now swarmed around the Imperial fleet like angry wasps. On the Imperial capital world of Nexus Prime, Emperor Donghayan watched the reports flooding in from across his empire. 12 major worlds were under attack simultaneously, and in each case, the attackers were ships that his forces had dismissed as harmless scrap collectors. "How long have these ships been in our territory?" he demanded. "Intelligence suggests at least 2 years, Your Majesty," replied Admiral Hyan-woo, the Emperor's military advisor. "They've been hiding in plain sight, posing as civilian salvage crews." The Emperor's face was pale with rage. 2 years! They've been planning this for 2 years, and we never suspected anything. More reports arrived every few minutes. The amplifier station on Cathara Station had been destroyed by a ship that appeared to be a mining vessel but fought like a dreadnought. The fortress world of Vega Prime was under siege by 3 ships that had somehow penetrated its planetary shields. On Centauri Beta, the local defense fleet was being systematically destroyed by vessels that kept appearing and disappearing like ghosts. "Your Majesty," Admiral Hyanwu said urgently, "we're receiving a priority transmission from the Glory's end control facility." The main screen in the Emperor's throne room displayed Dr. Kong Ho, the chief scientist responsible for the Super Weapon project. His normally calm face was twisted with panic. "Your Majesty, the amplifier network is failing," he reported. "We've lost primary stations on 7 worlds and 3 more are under attack. If we lose 2 more amplifiers, the Glory's end weapon will be completely useless." Emperor Donghayan felt something he had not experienced in decades: genuine fear. The Glory's End project had consumed enormous resources and represented the Empire's ultimate guarantee of power. Without it, rebellious worlds might actually believe they could challenge Imperial authority. "Deploy the First Fleet," he ordered. "Every ship we have, stop these attacks at any cost." But even as he gave the order, Emperor Donghayan knew it might be too late. The human ships were scattered across dozens of systems, and his fleets could not be everywhere at once. Back on Valtheon Prime, Captain Deho was learning what it meant to fight alongside one of Earth's greatest military minds. Admiral Mi Young had taken control of every hidden system aboard the Ashwalker, and the ship was performing maneuvers that should have been impossible for its apparent design. "Incoming missiles from Orbital Platform 7, Taemin reported. "Deploying countermeasures." Admiral Mi Young replied calmly. The Ashwalker phase shifted partially out of normal space, allowing the missiles to pass harmlessly through its hull. Then it reappeared behind the orbital platform and fired a spread of quantum torpedoes that turned the massive station into expanding debris. General Sao Jun watched from his command center as his carefully planned defenses crumbled. The human ship was fighting like it knew exactly where every weapon and sensor was placed, anticipating his every move before he made it. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving updates from other systems. The attacks are happening everywhere. Zorian 7 has fallen. Nexus Central is under siege. Cathara Station has gone silent." Sao Jun felt the weight of failure settling on his shoulders. He had served the Empire faithfully for 30 years, and now he was watching it burn around him. "General," came Admiral Mi Young's voice over the communication system, "I know you can hear this transmission. I am Admiral Mi Young of the Earth Navy, killed defending Mars 15 years ago. I want you to understand something." The bridge was silent as every Imperial officer listened to the voice of their enemy. "Your Empire called us Ash," Mi Young continued. "You said we were nothing more than scavengers feeding on the remains of better civilizations. But you made one critical error in your judgment." Another orbital platform exploded as the Ashwalker continued its deadly dance through the defense network. Ash is what remains after fire has consumed everything else, and sometimes ash is all you need to start a new fire. Today, we are that fire. Today, we burn down everything you built on the graves of free worlds. As if responding to her words, explosions bloomed throughout the Valtheon system as other Earth ships revealed themselves. They had been hiding throughout Imperial space for months, waiting for this moment. Now they emerged from asteroid fields and gas clouds, their true nature finally revealed. The Ashwalker was not alone. It was part of a fleet that had been invisible. Until now, scattered ships that looked like salvage vessels but fought like the most advanced warships in the galaxy. On Nexus Prime, Emperor Donghayan received the final blow to his plans. Dr. Kang Ho appeared on the screen again, his face completely defeated. "Your Majesty, we've lost the minimum number of amplifiers needed to maintain the Glory's End network. The weapon is non-functional." The Emperor stared at the scientist in disbelief. "What do you mean, non-functional?" "The amplifier stations work together to focus and redirect the weapon's energy across interstellar distances. Without enough stations to maintain the network, the weapon cannot target anything beyond our local star system. And even then, the power levels would be insufficient." For stellar conversion? Years of planning, trillions of credits and resources, the Empire's ultimate guarantee of power, all of it was now worthless. The humans had identified the weapon's weakness and struck at exactly the right targets to disable it completely, but the Earth ships were not finished. Reports were coming in of a new development that terrified Imperial commanders even more than the destruction of the Amplifier network. "Your Majesty," Admiral Hyenwu said quietly, "our scientists are detecting massive energy buildups from the human ships. They appear to be linking their power cores together through some kind of quantum connection." On the main display, energy readings from across the galaxy showed the same pattern. Every Earth ship, from the Ashwalker at Valtheon Prime to the Iron Ember at Zorian 7, was synchronizing its fusion reactor with all the others. Dr. Kangho's voice shook as he explained what his instruments were detecting. "Your Majesty, if they succeed in linking all those reactors together, the combined energy output will be enough to generate an electromagnetic pulse that covers the entire galaxy. Every electronic system in Imperial space would be disabled." "Emperor." Dong Hien felt the last of his confidence drain away. "Including our ships? Our planetary defenses?" "Everything, Your Majesty." "The pulse would set back our technology by centuries. Worse, it would cripple our ability to maintain control over the outer worlds. Without our superior technology, the Empire would face rebellions on 1,000 planets." As the reality of the situation became clear, Emperor Donghien realized that the humans had planned something far more devastating than just destroying the Glory's End weapon. They intended to cripple the entire Imperial military machine with one coordinated attack. "Admiral." Kyungsu's voice crackled over the communication system from his flagship near Nexus Central. "Your Majesty, the human ships are accelerating their power buildup. Our scientists estimate they have less than an hour before the pulse fires. Can we stop them?" The Emperor asked desperately. "Unknown, Your Majesty. We would need to destroy every human ship simultaneously. They're scattered across dozens of systems, and our fleets are not in position to engage them all at once." On Valtheon Prime, Captain Deho watched his ship's fusion core beg. 1 year after the Battle of Ashfall, Earth looked different than it had before. The orbital shipyards that had once hidden their activities now worked openly, building vessels that bore no resemblance to the disguised scrap ships of the past. These new ships were sleek and powerful, painted with the proud insignia of the Earth Defense Force and bearing names that honored the fallen president. Chanwu stood before the memorial wall that stretched across 5 kilometers of the Luna colony's main plaza. Each name carved into the black stone represented a crew member who had died in Operation Ashfall. There were thousands of them, from Captain Deho and his crew aboard the Ashwalker to Captain Gang Min and the heroes of the Iron Ember. "They came as ash," President Chanwu said to the assembled crowd, "dismissed and forgotten by an empire that thought itself eternal. But even ash can burn bright enough to light the darkness. Even ash can become the fire that brings down empires." The crowd was silent as they listened to the president's words. Many of them had lost family members in the operation, but they also knew that those sacrifices had saved not just Earth, but hundreds of worlds throughout the galaxy. The final moments of the battle were still difficult to talk about. When the synchronized fusion cores of the Earth ships had reached critical mass, the explosion of light had been visible from one end of the galaxy to the other. Every ship in Operation Ashfall had been vaporized instantly, their crews becoming particles of energy that spread across interstellar space, but their sacrifice had accomplished exactly what Dr. Haywon had predicted. The galaxy-wide electromagnetic pulse had disabled every piece of Imperial technology for a radius of 50,000 light-years. Ships had been stranded in space with dead engines. Planetary defense grids had gone dark. Communication networks that had connected the Empire for 1,000 years had fallen silent. In the months that followed, the Empire had collapsed faster than anyone had believed possible. Without their technological superiority, Imperial forces could not maintain control over the outer worlds. Rebellions had erupted on every frontier planet, and many core worlds had simply declared independence rather than wait for Imperial forces to restore order. Former Admiral Kyung-soo sat in his cell on Luna Colony, no longer wearing the proud uniform of the Imperial Navy. He had been captured when his flagship Eternal Glory had drifted powerless into Earth territory after the Pulse. Now he served as a witness to how completely his empire's certainty had been destroyed. "We never understood," he said during his interview with Earth intelligence officers. "We saw your ships and assumed they represented the best you could do. We thought your technology was primitive, your tactics straightforward, your people desperate." The intelligence officer, Commander Tae-young, nodded patiently. "What do you understand now?" "That everything was a lie," Kyung-soo replied bitterly. "Your primitive ships carried technology we had never seen. Your desperate crews were some of the finest military minds in the galaxy. Even your apparent weakness was a weapon." Commander Tae-young leaned forward. "How so?" "Because we stopped paying attention to you. 1,000 salvage ships moved through our territory for 2 years, and we never once considered them a threat. We were so convinced of our own superiority that we became blind to the danger right in front of us." The former admiral stared out the window at the Earth ships passing by. "You made us complicit in our own destruction. We helped you get into position to destroy us." What Kyung-soo did not know was that the Pulse had been only the beginning of Earth's plan. While Imperial technology slowly came back online over the following months, Earth had used that time to establish defense networks around every world that declared independence from the Empire. New ships launched daily from Earth's shipyards, no longer disguised as scrap but bearing the proud designation HFY class in honor of the heroes who had made their construction possible. These vessels incorporated all the technology that had been hidden in the original salvage ships, but now there was no need for secrecy. The galaxy had learned that humanity's greatest strength was not superior technology or overwhelming firepower. It was the willingness to sacrifice everything for what they believed in. Combined with the intelligence to make that sacrifice count for something, Admiral Young-sik, now promoted to Supreme Commander of the Earth Defense Force, stood in his office looking at star charts that showed the new reality of galactic politics. Where once there had been one massive empire, now there were hundreds of independent worlds forming alliances and trade agreements based on mutual respect rather than fear. "Status report," he said to his aide, Lieutenant So-jin. 47 former Imperial worlds have requested Earth protection agreements, she replied. 12 more have asked for technical assistance in rebuilding their infrastructure. And we've received formal thanks from over 200 planetary governments for our role in their liberation. Admiral Young-sik nodded with satisfaction. "And the remaining Imperial forces?" "Scattered and demoralized. Emperor Donghain controls maybe 50 core worlds now, and even those are questioning his authority. Intelligence suggests there are at least 6 separate factions forming within what's left of the Imperial hierarchy." It was exactly what Earth's strategists had hoped for. The Empire had been too large and too dependent on technology to survive the sudden loss of its advantages. Without the ability to project power across interstellar distances, it had fragmented into smaller, more manageable pieces, but the cost had been enormous. Dr. Haewon worked in her laboratory, still trying to understand exactly what had happened. During the final moments of Operation Ashfall, the quantum mechanics involved in synchronizing hundreds of fusion reactors across galactic distances should have been impossible. But somehow the consciousness patterns stored in the ship's AI cores had made it work. "The digital souls provided something we couldn't replicate with technology alone," she explained to her research team. "Human intuition, the ability to make connections that pure logic couldn't achieve. Admiral Mi-young and the others didn't just control the ship's systems, they became part of them." Her assistant, Dr. Minho, looked up from his calculations. "Are you saying the AI cores achieved some kind of true consciousness?" "I'm saying they achieved something even more important," Dr. Haewon replied. "They achieved purpose. Each of those digital souls knew exactly why they were fighting and what they were willing to sacrifice to achieve it. In the deep space between, Stars, automated beacons continued to broadcast the final messages of the Ashfall cruise. These transmissions traveled across the galaxy, carrying the last words of heroes to anyone willing to listen, Captain. Deho's final message played continuously on a beacon near the Valtheon system. We came as ash, dismissed and forgotten. But even ash can burn bright enough to light the darkness. Even ash can become the fire that brings down empires. To those who come after us, remember this: freedom is not given by the powerful. It is taken by the brave. Captain Gangmin's message from the Zorian sector carried a different tone. The Empire believed that might makes right, that superior technology justified oppression. They were wrong. Today we prove that courage and determination can overcome any advantage. May our sacrifice light the way for others who seek liberty. Captain Sunya's final transmission from Nexus Central was characteristically direct. They called us scavengers, picking through the garbage of better civilizations. But we showed them that one civilization's garbage can become another's weapon. We are Earth, and we do not surrender. These messages had become something more than military communications. They were inspiration for the rebellion movements that continued to spread throughout former Imperial territory. On worlds where humans had never set foot, people listened to the final words of the Ashfall cruise and found the courage to fight for their own freedom. The memorial wall on Luna Colony had become a pilgrimage site, visited by beings from dozens of different species. They came to honor warriors they had never met, who had fought for principles that transcended racial or planetary boundaries. Ambassador Haiwan, formerly the communications officer on a salvage ship called the Debris Runner, now served as Earth's representative to the new Galactic Council. The organization had formed spontaneously as independent worlds sought ways to coordinate their defense and trade without recreating the Empire's oppressive structure. The Ashfall cruise taught us something important, she said during the Council's first formal session. They showed us that sometimes the greatest victory requires the ultimate sacrifice. But they also showed us that such sacrifices should never be necessary if we treat each other with respect and dignity from the beginning. The Empire still existed, but it was a shadow of its former self. Emperor Donghayan had retreated to the core worlds, ruling over a domain that grew smaller each year as more planets declared independence. His dreams of galactic dominance had died with the glory's end weapon, and he knew that history would remember him not as a conqueror, but as the ruler who lost the greatest empire in galactic history to ships that looked like flying scrap-top. But perhaps the most fitting memorial to the Ashfall cruise was not the wall of names or the automated beacons. It was the simple fact that, across the galaxy, beings who had been slaves were now free.